Hello and welcome to Dad's Do Dinner again with me, Chris Fazackerly. You're very welcome. Thank you very much for all of your lovely comments so far. We've had an incredible amount of feedback and I cannot believe that we're just about to hit 1,000 views in total on YouTube. I'm totally and utterly blown away. So thank you so much for all of your support and obviously enjoying the recipes we've been doing. And today I'm super excited because I hope you can tell from our background music. Normally we have just a standard playlist going, and today I'm going to say buongiorno, which is Italian for hello, if you didn't know, because today we're going to do a pasta dish. So today's recipe is Italian orzo pasta, and I'm super excited because this is my own original recipe. So if any of you find out that somebody else has done it, kill them. Okay, moving on. Let's have a look at the ingredients and then we'll go from there and see how we get on. Right, so you might be wondering why I have pre-prepared all of these different ingredients. I'm going to speak to you for one more second. The reason being is because I have been challenged this week to do the following: a meat eater, vegetarian, vegan dinner. So this is my challenge for this week. So I hope you enjoy, because I am completely stressed. I have already started drinking. It's very nice though. This is from Schmaldi, Sauvignon Blanc, New Zealand, only the best. £5.50, brilliant. There are other supermarkets you can buy wine from, of course. But yeah, that's my challenge today. So I will tell you at each step where you stop for each particular dietary requirement. And we're also going to throw in, apparently, some Slimming World sort of hints and tips as well for all those, including my wifey, who are on Slimming World and doing a great job at the moment. So we'll go back to the ingredients and have a look. So now you understand the three different dinners. You'll see why I fried some chicken separately. So for all you meat eaters, we're going to have a chicken pasta. I've got some mushrooms, I've got some cheese, I've got some freshly cut basil. That was a 30-gram bag, and I've saved a tiny bit of the leaves for the end so we can decorate. I've also got some butternut squash, and that's going to basically replace the chicken that we have in this dinner for all of those who are vegan or vegetarian. That's your option, and it goes super, super well. Butternut squash is very buttery. It's really naturally well, not spiced, but it's very well flavoured. So we're going to use that as a substitute for our chicken for both our vegan and vegetarian dish. And some other things that are really essential to the dinner is our flavourings. So we have got some maple syrup as our sugar. We've got some salt, we've got some garlic puree, because what? Dads don't crush garlic. But if you want to, it's 4 cloves, please. Really garlicky, as any Italian dish should be. We have some parsley from Schmesco, but you can buy parsley from wherever you like. And we have some stock here. I am doing a mix of vegetable and chicken stock. For those of you who are vegetarian or vegan, just make sure that you have a vegetable stock. Now, for the vegans among you, I do have a top tip. The Knorr, is that how you pronounce that? I don't really know. The Knorr stock, I checked the ingredients. The vegetable stock only has xanthan gum in as your stabilizer, so it doesn't use any gelatin from an animal. So if you are doing a vegan dinner version of this particular recipe, that's definitely the one to use. But we're going to use chicken stock because my daughter won't eat veg. Okay, so moving on, we're going to have a look at what else I've prepared. You can see that I've got quite a large wok here ready to go. I've just glugged some oil in. Remember, we're trying not to be too scientific in Dad's Do Dinner. Glug the oil in, it'll all get used up. For those of you on Slimming World, you can use Fry Light, not a problem. Now at this point, what you could do is you could add in your chicken and start getting that cooking. I've already pre-done mine because we're doing 3 separate dinners. No stress. I also have the main ingredient of today's dinner, which is orzo pasta. Orzo pasta is incredible. It's a bit like rice in that respect. So we'll be sort of doing an Italian risotto, but with pasta instead. And it's a lot less complicated than doing risotto, where you have to constantly add liquid in and get the rice nice and fluffy. This is so much easier. This is a 500-gram bag of orzo. As you can see, it's a really, really tiny pasta, but this will actually triple in size as we get cooking it. So don't worry that it's such a small bag. I promise you, this one bag, this 500-gram bag, will feed 4 people, no problem. We always have leftovers for the 3 of us, so 4 people, definitely a really nice hearty meal. Please be aware though, shop around, because when I went to Szmecko, this particular bag of orzo pasta was 3 times the cost. 3 times the cost than when we went to Mazda. I'm being winked at, that was the right one. So if you're going to Mazda, £1. If you're going to Tesco, £3. Don't do it. Get the pound version, it works absolutely fine. So we've got our orzo pasta ready to go. So the first thing we need to do, if you haven't pre-cooked your chicken, get that in. If you're doing the vegetarian version, as I mentioned before, we're using butternut squash. Now this, I cheated. I bought, it was £1.50 from Szmecko, and it was pre-peeled, pre-cubed. I shoved it in the oven for half an hour. Beautiful, done, no problem. So don't feel like you have to now sit there with this huge butternut squash, because I didn't, honestly. Right, so let's get our ingredients in the frying pan so we get going. Now, here is my bowl of leeks. I think, do you remember when I was talking about Undersung Heroes and I said that tarragon was the most amazing thing you'll ever taste? It is. And you can put tarragon in this, no problem at all, because it is a chicken dinner or a veggie dinner, whatever you want to do. However, leeks, undersung hero of the vegetable planet, they are brilliant. So packed full of nutrients, brilliant in this dinner. So whatever you're doing today, make sure that leeks are your main vegetable in this, and you can put in as many as you like. I put in 3 because I love them, everybody else loves them. What I wouldn't do is I wouldn't do onions and leeks, okay? So if you want to pack it with more veg, I've got mushrooms, that doesn't really count because mushrooms don't really have any nutritional value. However, they are super yummy, so we're going to put those in. And if you want to put in onions and peppers, you go for it. Whatever you want to throw in is absolutely fine. But for this particular recipe, I found leeks and mushrooms work really well together. So let's give it a go. So we're going to pop our leeks in. I've just put a glug of oil in here. Put those in. Give those a little stir around. Hope you can see that okay. I put this on a mid-heat, and that's mostly because I need a little bit of time to prepare the flavoursome stock that we're going to use for cooking the pasta in. Actually, that's not high enough. I'm going to put it up to a 4 out of 5. As long as it's not on the top heat, we should be absolutely fine. So I'm going to leave those in there for a second to soften up. Just be wary that when you add in your mushrooms, they will soak up all of the vegetable water that comes out and all the oil that you've used as well. So I will cook the leeks just for 5 minutes before you put in the mushrooms, but don't stress. If you want to put it all in together, that's absolutely fine. It's not going to wreck the dinner, okay? The other thing we're going to get ready now is our stock, so please bear with me. I'm going to just make sure that I flick between the 2 pans. You can do whatever you prefer. I'm just being swanky. Right, so measuring jug, really important, mostly because we're going to need 1.5 litres of water for this recipe. So first of all, we need to flavour it. One of the most amazing things I ever saw was a chef called Carluccio, and he literally got a pan on a boat, and he grabbed the pan and he thrust the pan into the sea on the sea boat, brought the seawater in the pan out of the sea, and then put pasta in it. I was absolutely gobsmacked. But the really professional way to cook pasta, and the proper way you should cook pasta, is make sure that your water is really salty. So if you're cooking pasta for anyone, make sure that you put a really good dessert spoon of salt into your water, so that when you're cooking your pasta, it becomes really nice and flavoursome. However, orzo pasta is slightly different. It's going to soak up all of the water that we're going to put in, so we're going to flavour our water accordingly. So let's get our stock in. So we need 2 Liquitabs, or 2 of the solid ones. I've decided to go for 1 of each, which is absolutely fine. Remember, vegans and vegetarians, if you're using your vegetable stock, it's 2 of them. The same rule applies, okay? So stock in there. Now we're going to need to put in our 4 cloves of garlic. If you're using garlic puree like myself, it's going to be quite a lot. So you can see that's about 4 cloves worth in there, okay? But don't panic. Don't worry if you feel it's too scientific. Just to get it done, it'll be absolutely fine. I'm going to save the parsley for a second. I'm going to put a glug of sugar in. I would say a heaped teaspoon of normal sugar. Do remember your top tips. If you're doing this on a sort of Slimming World diet or something you can't sin or you can't have, then you can leave the sugar out. But we're entertaining today, so we're going to put in our secret weapons: fat, sugar, salt. Boom, done. Right, in terms of salt, I want 3 really large pinches of salt, and that's a level dessert spoon of salt in there. Okay, great. And then we'll put in our parsley last. However much parsley you like is up to you. I put in a dessert spoonful, but if you don't like parsley that much, you can just use a little bit. Okay, now I've pre-boiled a kettle, but I'm going to heat it up just to make sure it's nice and boiled over here. That gives you time to check your leeks. Brilliant. So we're going to put in our mushrooms in a second because these are starting to soften up and brown really, really nicely. Let's pop our mushrooms in. So the other thing I've added to this particular recipe is fresh basil. You don't have to use fresh basil, but in this particular case I think it just adds so much more flavour to the recipe. I've still got this heat on about a 3/4 heat on our electricity Tiara oven. Super designer, as you know. This is a 4 out of 5. Just really to make sure that as you're trying to do other bits like making the stock, you're not burning the vegetables or anything like that. The lower the heat, the longer time you have, so no stress. Not a problem at all. These are cooking like a dream, so we're going to leave those for a second. Now, optional extras. Remember we covered sugar in our optional extras. That's entirely up to you. If you want to add even more flavour, you can have a little bit of butter. I wouldn't bother for this recipe. I don't really feel like the Italians would put in butter. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think they would use oil. I haven't used olive oil for this particular one. It's quite pungent olive oil, so I've used rapeseed oil because it's indigenous to the UK and it agrees with my particular workings a bit better than olive oil. Okay, and the other thing I've got is a few little niceties like a bit of wine and stuff, but we'll have a look at that in a second. Let's check our veg again. It's looking really good. You'll see that the leeks start to become a deeper green, looking really, really nice. What we don't want to do is overcook these too much because they're going to boil or cook, as it were, all together with the pasta, and what I don't want to do is for you to worry or panic that you've overcooked them. It really won't make much difference. The frying aspect of this is really to give them a head start so you're not waiting too long for everything to boil together. Okay, we're just waiting for our kettle to boil, which will be hopefully a few minutes, if that. Okay, let's have a quick chat about the cheese. The cheese in this particular recipe will make it quite silky and obviously give it great flavour. I have used Parmesan and mature cheddar for my particular mix. I've done 180 grams of cheese. So for those of you on Slimming World, that's 2 healthy bees. Is that right? I'm being nodded at, so that's correct. And that's, so basically don't have milk that day if you're having this dinner, and you can have 6 portions out of this dinner, no problem. So that's why I've done that much cheese. It obviously won't be your entire portion, so don't panic too much. If you don't agree at all with dairy, like cow's milk or anything like that, one of my good friends, Sarah, I saw this morning, and she said, what other cheese could I use? Because we were talking about the recipe we were doing today, and I said, oh, actually, whatever sort of would suit you to flavour the dinner. It's really about the flavour and not so integral to the actual the makeup of the dinner. And she suggested manchego, which was an excellent idea, so thank you very much, Sarah. I definitely would use manchego, but I certainly wouldn't use probably as much because it's such a strong cheese, so try and mix it with something else if you can do. Maybe a bit of lacto-free cheese and some manchego if you can coat with goat's cheese. That would be brilliant. Okay, so our veg is nearly done, so let's just have a check. Yeah, so as you can see, when the liquid starts to come out of the vegetables, and you'll see at the bottom of the pan, that's when they start to cook really, really nicely. Our glorious rustic kettle is now ready to go, whistling away at me. So let's mix up our stock together. We're going to need 1.5 litres of water. So fill this up to whatever you're comfortable with. So I'm going to put 800 ml in this particular mix and mix it up. And then I'm going to put another 700 ml into the dinner. Because remember, your orzo pasta, not only is it going to soak up all the lovely sugars and salts and the stock, whether it's vegetable or chicken that you put in, it's also going to triple in size, and that's what we want to achieve. So make sure that all your stock is nicely dissolved. Keep stirring it up. Don't want any lumpy bumpies. That's still a bit lumpy bumpy. Keep that stirring up. Remember, if you don't want to have sugar in this, that's absolutely fine. But when you're entertaining people, remember your secret weapons: sugar, fat and salt. And there's no problem. The body is more than capable of coping with everything in moderation. The most important thing is that you do get it in moderation. So I know you might think this I'm obsessed with sugar. For a diabetic, that's quite scary. I really am not. It's just making sure that these particular dinners, if you're wanting to impress, then it'll be a lot better for you if you add in these secret weapons. Right, I'm really happy with that. All the lumps and bumps, I think, have dissolved. So this is going to go literally straight into our pan in a second. The only thing I'm going to add in now, before I forget, is the fresh basil. Get that cooked off slightly. I know fresh herbs can get quite pricey, that's why I've got mine from Schmaldi, yeah. Honestly, if you were studying now, when you cook with dry herbs, they taste great, but they don't smell great. With fresh herbs, you get that really nice reward of so much smell, as well as the taste at the end, which is so rewarding. And what I want you to do is just tease the basil with a bit of heat, not so that it sort of fries crispy, because that would be the worst thing to do now. Now that that's literally covered in a bit of heat, we're going to put the stock in straight away. Okay, remember we were a bit short, so I'm going to fill up again with some hot water. Perfect. Okay, 1.5 litres of water. This is for a 500 gram bag of orzo pasta from Mazda. If you want to use the pasta from Schmesco, that's absolutely fine, but you'll be ripping yourself off in this particular case. Alright, look at that, beautiful. So we've got some really nice stock with all of our veg that started off in the fryer. Got some mushrooms, got some fresh basil, and we had some dry parsley in with our stock. Beautiful. So the next thing that we need to do is add in our pasta. The whole bag, oh my gosh, I can't speak. The whole bag, please. 500 grams, straight in, stir that around a bit, and you're going to think, oh my life, Chris, that pasta is drowning. I promise you, whilst it looks like it's drowning, it really isn't. What I want you to do now is I want you to whack up the heat as high as possible, so that it comes to the boil as quickly as possible. Now this is the fun bit. Whether, I hope I'm right in saying this, but whether you're a vegan, a vegetarian or a meat lover, there is one nicety you can add to this dinner, which I'm going to do for this one. And this is how my ratio works. Let's have a look. A bit of white wine. 1 glug for the dinner, 1 glug for Chris. 1 glug for the dinner, 1 glug for Chris. And hopefully Chris ends up with more than the dinner. Beautiful. I do love Sunday lunch. Okay, mix that up. The wine honestly will boil off. There will be very little or no alcohol in this dinner left over, but it will give a lovely hint of some beautiful, in the case of a Sauvignon Blanc, it'll give you some nice gooseberry and very dry peach notes, and for others like Chardonnay, which is a bit more earthy and a bit more grapey, you decide which white wine you want with this particular dinner, if at all any. You don't have to have any at all. You don't have to have any wine. I do, because I'm cooking. So, let's say cheers quickly. Thank you so much again for joining us. It really does mean a lot. Believe it or not, this is probably going to be the shortest video we've done so far, because once it's come to the boil, you release all of the starch that we've covered in some other recipes that we've talked about. And once the starch is released, you then put it on a really, really low heat and you allow it to cook itself over about half an hour. Now that's give and take depending on your particular oven. And we don't have time to sit here, and believe it or not, I can't talk that long about nothing. So we're going to bring it to the boil, and we're just going to show you very quickly how that looks, and then once that's done, we're actually going to finish the episode. Once you've brought it to the boil, put it to the minimum heat. So remember, we talked about a barely blue glow on gas. On electric, it's just under the 1 mark, so it's still on but very, very low. And once you've boiled it and released all those lovely starches into the water, I promise you the pasta will start to soak up every single flavour you've put in here. This was a recipe that I came up with as a complete fluke when my sister Laura came to stay, and it's sort of stuck in our family as an Italian staple. So I really hope you enjoy it. In fact, we're nearly there actually, if you want to have a look. Can you see how it's starting to bubble? You can see it so much better on the camera than I can. There's so much steam. Once it's started to bubble, bring it to a really vigorous bubble. And then once it's really, really vigorous and it's been bubbling for about 10 seconds, turn it right down, put a lid on it and leave it. The only thing you need to do every 5 to 10 minutes is you come over and you stir it through. Stir it through. Stir it through. That's it. That's all you need to do. Okay. Brilliant. So I'm very, very happy with that. That's pretty much nearly come to the boil. Right at the very end, okay, vegans, you serve up with your butternut squash straight away. Don't add anything else. It should be a nice, really nice creamy texture to the end of your recipe. So I don't want it watery, but a sort of saucy consistency to your specifications will be absolutely fine. Don't add anything else, and I believe, if I've done this correctly, this is totally vegan. So use your butternut squash, plenty of garlic, a bit of white wine. This will be really delicious, and I hope you enjoy it very much. The vegetarians amongst us, for added flavour, you add in your cheese. Don't add in your cheese until all of that water has been absorbed by the pasta and you've got a really nice creamy sort of mix, okay? Then add in all your cheese, stir it together and serve up straight away, okay? And for the meat eaters, exactly the same as everything I've just said, excuse me, except you add in your chicken right at the end. I hope you've really enjoyed Dad's Do Dinner. Please check out the finished photographs on our Facebook and Instagram pages, Dad's Do Dinner, and we look forward to seeing you very, very soon for our next update. Thank you.